Hi everybody, it's Peter Schiff. This is Monday, June 21st, 2010. Well, it's official. I am now on the ballot. I am a candidate for the United States Senate, the Republican primary here in Connecticut. The primary is going to be on August 10th. This is a first. I am the first person in Connecticut history to petition his way onto a statewide ballot. We need to let Republican voters know that I am in this race and let them know that I am a credible candidate, viable alternative to Linda McMahon. The good news is the data shows that when people know about me, they tend to support me overwhelmingly. And we already know that many people don't like Linda McMahon, and they would vote for me if they knew anything about me. And many of the people who support Linda McMahon only support her because they don't know that I'm in the race. After all, Linda McMahon has managed to convince people that she should be our next senator because she's not a career politician, because she's a business person. I agree. We want a business person, just not a show business person, not a wrestling promoter.
There is no income tax.
There is no income tax.
No.
Meet Irwin Schiff.
Here's the law. Here's the law.
He's 75 years old and quite a character. We brought Irwin to the office of one of the top accountants and tax attorneys in town, Bert Padell. Irwin riled Padell up with a $50,000 bet. Listen.
Now you show me in this code book where it says persons earning income shall be liable for and shall pay the tax, and you got $50,000. How's that?
Oh boy.
Now I have to warn you that Mr. Schiff went to prison for 4 years once for tax evasion. That was 17 years ago, and he says that he learned a lot from that experience.
I went to jail for 4 years, and 4 years on parole and probation. And Peter Dorsey, I'm not making this up, told my jury they could convict me of tax evasion even if the government didn't prove the act of evasion I was charged with committing. And my conviction was written up in Journal Taxation. Even they said I didn't commit tax evasion.
How does this guy get away with this? Great question. The IRS doesn't want to talk about it. Remember Irwin's $50,000 bet? Well, he doesn't have to pay out because Padell can't find an exact law that says you have to pay taxes. Shortly after the problem solvers challenged the IRS to take a stand on Schiff, his headquarters in Las Vegas was raided by the feds. They took away a bunch of books and records.
But essentially what they're trying to do is scare people into thinking that I've done something wrong, which I haven't.
Now it looks like Irwin Schiff may be in trouble with the IRS, but they didn't arrest him. He's free, and he says the raid is totally illegal.
Steal. So the only way that we can take back America is cut off the flow of funds to the irresponsible legislators in Washington. So I want to thank you.
He has a lot of theories that, are credible, but the courts are rejecting them. But I've spoken to a lot of lawyers, I've spoken to a lot of judges personally who have read my father's stuff, who tell me off the record that they agree with him, that they think from a purely technical point of view, he's right, but from a practical matter, he's not going to win.
I did about 2 years of investigation part-time while I was a special agent for the IRS, and really couldn't help but conclude that the evidence showed that most Americans weren't required to pay it, at least not according to the laws passed by Congress.
I don't think he ever got a fair hearing on it. I think most of the things that he did, the judges just summarily dismissed. Most of his arguments that were put before the judges, the government never even responded. I mean, my father would file a motion, the government would do nothing, and the court would rule in favor of the government. I mean, if the judge is supposed to be a referee, how can my father lose when the other side doesn't even throw a punch? My father told the IRS exactly what he was doing. He said, I'm not paying my taxes, and here's why. So he wasn't hiding. He wasn't committing fraud. He was being honest. So the worst thing you can say about him is that he was mistaken. But, we don't put people in jail for being mistaken. I tried to, in part, let him know about that, years and years ago. That, hey, this is just, you're a talented guy, you're a very bright guy. There are better ways that you can try to use those gifts and help the country and educate the country than to spend all your time fighting a battle that you can't win. And so that's, I've taken a very different approach to, what I'm doing, the way I'm trying to educate Americans about the problems in our economy and the way the government is contributing to those problems. And I'm trying to help a lot of individual Americans protect their wealth through the way they organize their investments.
Why do you think that a recession is coming, and just how bad is it going to be?
I think it's going to be pretty bad, and whether it starts in 07 or 08, I think is immaterial.
I don't believe any of it whatsoever, Michelle, excuse me. But Peter, I'm going to take a bet with you on this one. I'll bet you a penny on this one.
I'll bet you a lot more than a penny. Anytime I want to collect that penny.
Thank you. Well, I'll collect it with a nice note from you, Peter. What can I tell you, Peter? It's a bet of a penny in your honor on the stake, and mine too.
Have you paid off that bet? No, I haven't.
Where are the real conservatives? Where are the people that say all of this stuff that the Fed is doing is socialism? Well, we are socializing and nationalizing.
Exactly. There was one, Ron Paul, but they drummed him out of the Republican Party. I mean, nobody would pay him any attention. He's the only guy that has the courage to speak the truth. Look at what he says on the Senate Banking Committee when he talks to Ben Bernanke and when he talked to Alan Greenspan all these years. He's talked about all this. He's warned about all this, but everybody has ignored him and others like him. I mean, I get marginalized in the mainstream financial world, just like Ron Paul has been marginalized in the political world.
By your definition, do things get worse faster under President Hillary Clinton or, let's say, a President John McCain?
Well, they're going to get pretty bad, and under either president. If you want anybody in office who's going to help the situation, then you got to vote for Ron Paul tomorrow, because he's the only Republican who has a shot of getting elected.
Don't you? You love Ron Paul.
Well, you ought to
You're
vote for him.
You're a contributor, right? You're a contributor.
I contributed to him. I'm actually officially one of his economic advisors. And ironically,
well,
he's the only
cockeyed, optimistic team.
He's the only candidate in the race who doesn't need any economic advice. He should be advising all the other candidates.
Well, he is a smart guy, as are you, Peter.
I'm sure that the big businesses, they'll get behind Barack, especially since it looks like he's probably going to get the nomination, and whoever wins on the Democratic nomination is going to win in a landslide. So big business, they want something from politicians. They're always in bed together, so they're going to give Barack money because they think that when he becomes president, they're going to get it back in some type of special favor, whatever influence they can buy. Why should we expect Congress to spend our money wisely? I mean, it's not their money, it's our money. That's the problem. That's right. They're spending our money to secure their own re-election, and that's what's important to them, but it's not important to us.
What specifically is he going to do that makes you worried as an American?
He's going to try to revive that bubble economy. He's going to try to get Americans spending money and borrowing again, and that's the disease. That's not the cure. He's going to try to create bigger government. He's going to try to borrow a lot more money from foreigners to spend it on government programs designed to encourage even more consumption. And of course, he's going to raise taxes on the very people that we need to try to provide the future employment opportunities for all the people who are going to lose their jobs during this contraction. And, when we have higher taxes on the people who are going to create jobs, we're actually going to end up getting less tax revenues. We're going to have a bigger government deficit. We could be looking at $1 to $2 trillion deficits during the Obama presidency.
The Dow is now at 11,000, and people are talking about, will it make a new high? Well, back in 2000, when the Dow was at 11,750, that equated to 45 ounces of gold. Today, the Dow is only worth 20 ounces of gold. So it's lost 55% of its value. The Dow would have to go to 25,000 to be where it was in terms of gold 6 years ago.
And gold is roaring ahead, 25-year highs recently.
Gold isn't going anywhere. It's the dollar that's losing value. I mean, that's why politicians love inflation so much, because the voters think they're getting wealthier while they're actually getting poorer. If you really want to know what's happening to your wealth, measure it in terms of gold.
No, you're not seeing the economy recover. What we're doing is we're going deeper into debt and we're spending money, but beneath the surface, the economy is not recovering. The economy is getting sicker. And that's why at the end of the year, you're going to see unemployment higher than it is today. You're going to see interest rates higher than they are today. And you're going to see inflation higher than it is today.
Why should a Republican voter pull your lever?
Because I think they can trust that when I go to Washington, I'm going to act on my convictions. I mean, I was on your program from the very beginning when they were coming up with these bailouts. I was opposing TARP from day one. I wanted to let AIG fail. I wanted to let all the investment banks fail. I didn't want one taxpayer dollar being used to bail out a private company. I didn't want the government bailing out General Motors. I didn't want them bailing out Chrysler. I wanted the market to function. And I understand that in order to get a lasting recovery, we're going to have to go through some short-term pain. There's no easy way out of this mess. It's unfortunate that we got into this predicament.
You don't think we've had enough pain already?
Well, unfortunately, we haven't had enough pain in Washington. They're still spending money.
I know if I win the nomination, I will beat Dick Blumenthal in November. You got to help me beat Linda McMahon in August. Take care, everybody.